Before we start, don't forget to hit like, tap subscribe, and tell me in the comments which bird surprises you most. Because trust me, number 15, you won't see that one coming. Now, when you think of North America, you probably imagine bald eagles soaring over mountains or flocks of geese honking overhead. But here's the twist. This continent is home to some of the strangest, boldest, and most unforgettable birds on Earth. From the robin that signals spring with its cheerful song, to the woodpecker hammering on trees like a rock drummer, to blackbirds flashing scarlet wings like tiny superheroes, North America's skies are full of characters. Fun fact, the tiniest bird on this list weighs less than a penny, while the heaviest can outweigh a Thanksgiving turkey. And some of these birds, they're living right outside your window. You just never realized how weird and wonderful they actually are. So grab your binoculars, because today we're counting down 15 unique endemic species you won't believe exist in North America. And yes, stick around to the end, because the last bird on our list might just change how you look at your own backyard forever. Let's kick things off with a bird you probably know by name, but maybe not by story, the American robin. Yep, the one hopping across your lawn, tugging worms like it's competing in a spaghetti eating contest. At first glance, robins don't look strange. Orange-red chest, gray-brown back, cheerful little stance. But here's the hook. This ordinary backyard bird is actually one of the continent's most extraordinary survivors. Robins are true early birds. Every spring, they're among the first to return north after migration, often braving chilly mornings long before other songbirds show up. That's why, for millions of Americans, the robin's song is the sound of spring itself. And get this, robins don't just eat worms. They're opportunists, chowing down on fruit, berries, and insects. In fact, they've got such good eyesight, they can spot tiny earthworms moving underground. It's like having X-ray vision built into their heads. Here's the twist. While most people think of robins as loners, in winter they gather in flocks of hundreds of thousands. Imagine your quiet backyard bird suddenly becoming part of a feathered flash mob. And they're tough too. Robins can have up to 3 broods a year, building messy grass and mud nests on everything from tree branches to porch lights. One researcher even found a robin nest on a ship's anchor chain. Talk about flexible housing. Fun fact, the American robin isn't really American. It was named by homesick European settlers because its orange breast reminded them of the European robin. So in a way, it's a case of mistaken identity that stuck. So here's my question for you. Do you see robins where you live? And do they feel like the true sign of spring? Drop your answer in the comments. I want to know. And now, from a cheerful backyard bird, we move to one that doesn't just sing, it belts out songs like a feathered rock star in a red suit. All right, time to turn up the volume, because if the robin was your friendly neighbor, the northern cardinal is the superstar on stage. Bright red feathers, a sharp crest on its head, and a voice that rings out like a whistle carried on the wind. This bird doesn't just show up in your yard, it performs. Male cardinals are impossible to miss. They're basically wearing a designer red suit 24/7, as if to say, yeah, I am the main character here. Meanwhile, the females play it smart. Warm tans with subtle red highlights, a quieter elegance that blends into the trees. Think Beyoncé and her backup singers, different outfits, same star power. Now here's the twist. Cardinals are one of the few North American songbirds where both sexes sing. That's right, the ladies aren't sitting this one out. In fact, female cardinals often sing complex phrases to communicate with their mates, sometimes even directing them on where to bring food. Relationship goals? Bird edition. Cardinals are also fiercely territorial. Ever seen a cardinal attacking a window or car mirror? It's not trying to vandalize your ride. It thinks its reflection is a rival intruder. These birds will literally fight themselves all day just to defend their patch of backyard. Fun fact? Cardinals don't migrate. So when winter comes and snow covers the trees, that flash of red perched on a frosty branch looks straight out of a Christmas postcard. No wonder they're one of the most photographed birds in America. And here's the cultural kicker. In many traditions, spotting a cardinal is seen as a sign that a loved one's spirit is nearby. So while birdwatchers admire them for beauty and song, Many people feel a deep emotional connection too. So here's my question for you. If a bright red cardinal landed outside your window, would you see it as a symbol or just a loud neighbor looking for snacks? Let me know in the comments. And up next, we're trading elegance for raw power because the next bird doesn't sing, it screams, and its shadow soaring overhead is enough to make the whole forest look up in awe. Here we go, the heavyweight celebrity of North America, the bird that's on coins, flags, and patriotic posters everywhere, the bald eagle. But let's clear one thing up right away. This bird is not actually bald. Its name comes from an old word meaning white-headed. Still majestic though. Picture it, a massive raptor with a wingspan over 7 feet, soaring across lakes and mountains, dark brown body, gleaming white head and tail, golden beak curved like a blade. It doesn't just fly, it commands the sky. And here's the hook. Despite being a fierce hunter, the bald eagle is also a bit of a thief. Yes, America's national symbol sometimes steals fish from ospreys, gulls, or even other eagles. Kind of awkward for a bird that represents strength and freedom, right? Still, when you've got size and power, who's going to argue? Bald eagles feed mostly on fish, but they're opportunists, grabbing ducks, rabbits, carrion when needed. And those talons? Razor sharp, with a grip strong enough to crush bone. Imagine a handshake you definitely don't want. Fun fact, these eagles build the largest nests of any bird in North America. Some are over 10 feet wide, weighing more than a ton, basically treetop mansions. Couples reuse and add to them every year, creating bird architecture that would put your house to shame. And speaking of couples, bald eagles often mate for life. They perform synchronized flight displays, locking talons midair and spiraling toward the ground in a death-defying courtship dance. Love and adrenaline, bird style. Here's the twist. Not long ago, the bald eagle almost disappeared. Pesticides like DDT decimated their populations, and by the 1960s, they were nearly gone from much of the US. But thanks to conservation, they've made an incredible comeback. Now thousands soar again across rivers and coastlines. A true comeback story. So here's my question for you. Do you see the bald eagle more as a fierce hunter or as a symbol of resilience? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to know. And coming up next, we go from the serious national icon to a bird with attitude, noise, and more blue feathers than your favorite sports team mascot. If the bald eagle is America's symbol of power, then the blue jay is its loud, feisty neighbor who never learned about indoor voices, bright blue feathers, a sharp crest, and a personality that fills the entire backyard. This bird is equal parts beauty and attitude. First off, that color. Those brilliant blue wings and tail. Here's the twist. They're not really blue. Yep, blue jays don't have any blue pigment. Their feathers are actually brown, but the microscopic structure scatters light in a way that makes them look blue. It's basically bird science magic, nature's optical illusion. And then there's the voice. Blue jays don't just sing, they yell. They scream, squawk, whistle, and even mimic hawks to scare other birds away from food. Some people call them bullies. Others call them brilliant strategists. Either way, they get what they want. Diet-wise, blue jays are omnivores. Nuts, seeds, berries, insects, and yes, sometimes even raiding other birds' nests. But here's a fun fact. They love acorns so much that they've played a major role in spreading oak trees across North America. So next time you sit under an oak, you might have a jay to thank. And while they can be noisy troublemakers, they're also surprisingly loyal. Blue jays form tight family groups, and during nesting season, the male often feeds the female while she incubates the eggs. Loud outside, soft inside. Now let's be real. People either love blue jays or not so much. Some see them as pests at feeders, while others admire their intelligence and fearless spirit. But one thing's certain, when a blue jay is around, you'll know it. So here's my question for you. Are you team blue jay, love the color, love the drama, or team please stop screaming outside my window? Tell me in the comments, I'm curious which side wins. And up next, we go from bold and brash to tiny and charming. Because the next bird may only weigh a few ounces, but it's got one of the most cheerful personalities in the forest. After the loud, flashy blue jay, let's shrink things down to one of North America's tiniest and friendliest neighbors. The black-capped chickadee, small, round, and fluffy with a black cap and bib. This little bird looks like it belongs on a holiday card. But don't be fooled by the cuteness. Chickadees are smart, tough, and full of personality. First, the name. Their call actually sounds like chickadee-dee-dee, like they're saying their own name out loud. And here's the fun twist. The more dee-dee-dees they add at the end, the more danger they're warning about. 1 D? Maybe a cat nearby. 5 or 6 Ds. Hawk overhead. It's basically the bird version of an alarm system with volume control. Despite weighing less than half an ounce, chickadees survive brutal winters across much of North America. How? By hiding food, hundreds, even thousands of seeds and insects stuffed into tree bark and secret caches. And here's the wild part. They remember exactly where they hid them months later. Their brains actually grow new neurons in winter to help with memory. Talk about seasonal upgrades. They're also bold around humans. In some places, if you hold out sunflower seeds in your palm, chickadees will literally land on your hand to eat. Not many wild birds are that trusting. Fun fact, chickadees sleep in little tree cavities or even abandoned woodpecker holes to stay warm, sometimes several huddled together, turning themselves into a tiny feathered furnace. And while they look delicate, they're feisty. They'll mob predators like owls or hawks, diving and scolding until the danger moves on. Courage definitely doesn't come in size packages here. So here's my question for you. If a chickadee landed on your hand, would you sit still in awe or immediately whip out your phone for a selfie? Tell me in the comments. I want to know. And up next, we go from a cheery puffball to a bird whose soft, haunting call has been the soundtrack of American evenings for centuries. A gentle coo that you've almost certainly heard, even if you didn't know who was singing. You've heard this bird, even if you didn't know its name. That soft, haunting coo, ooh, 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 drifting through summer evenings. That's the mourning dove, the gentle voice of backyards and fields all across North America. At first glance, they look simple. Light brown feathers, sleek body, small head. But don't underestimate them. With pointed wings and long tails, mourning doves are some of the fastest flyers around, hitting speeds of 55 miles per hour. For a bird that looks so peaceful, they've got a need for speed. Here's the twist. That mourning in their name isn't about the bird being sad, it's about the sound. Their call has a mournful tone, almost like a sigh. But behavior-wise, they're anything but gloomy. They're loyal partners, often mating for life, and the male and female work as a true team, taking turns incubating the eggs and raising the chicks. Relationship goals, bird addition, and you know that whistling sound you hear when a dove takes off? That's not a voice. It's actually the air rushing through their wing feathers. Built-in sound effects like a feathered jet engine. Fun fact? Mourning doves are champion reproducers. A pair can raise up to 6 broods in a single season. That's a lot of tiny, squeaky doves filling the skies. No wonder their population is estimated at more than 350 million across the continent. Culturally, they've been symbols of peace, love, and remembrance for centuries. From Native American folklore to modern tattoos, mourning doves carry deep emotional meaning. So here's my question for you. When you hear that soft coo outside your window, does it sound peaceful or a little sad? Drop your answer in the comments. I'd love to hear your take. And next, we trade gentle coos for rapid-fire drumming. Because the next bird doesn't sing at all. It plays percussion on trees like the forest's very own drummer. If the mourning dove was all soft coos and gentle vibes, the Downy Woodpecker is here to bring the beat. Because this tiny bird doesn't sing, it drums. Trees are its instruments, and the forest is basically its stage. At just 6 inches long, the downy is North America's smallest woodpecker. But what it lacks in size, it makes up for in energy. You'll hear a rapid tat-tat-tat-tat-tat, echoing through the woods like someone tapping Morse code on a tree trunk. That's not just music, it's communication. Drumming is how they mark territory and attract mates. Here's the twist. Despite looking almost identical to the larger hairy woodpecker, the downy has a much shorter bill, about half the length of its head. Birdwatchers call it one of the toughest ID challenges in the backyard. It's basically the look-alike cousin that keeps everyone guessing. Downy woodpeckers are also acrobats. They cling to tree trunks, hop sideways along branches, and even hang upside down to reach hidden insects. They're not picky eaters either. Ants, beetles, caterpillars, sap, even seeds from your feeder if you're lucky. And fun fact, they sometimes join mixed flocks with chickadees and nuthatches in winter, teaming up like a feathered Avengers squad to find food and stay safe from predators. Despite all the noise, downies are surprisingly gentle around humans. If you've got a sweat feeder, there's a good chance one will show up and hammer away right outside your window. Free entertainment, no tickets required. And here's a fun mini twist. Scientists once measured the force of a woodpecker's peck. It's like slamming your head into a wall at 15 miles per hour over 12,000 times a day. But thanks to special skull adaptations, downies never get headaches. Talk about built-in shock absorbers. So here's my question for you. Would you rather have the downy woodpecker's superpower head of steel or its drumming skills to impress the neighbors? Let me know in the comments. And coming up next, we trade the percussionist for a winter specialist, a little bird dressed in slate gray, flashing white feathers, and flocking across snowy backyards like tiny flying snowballs. If the downy woodpecker was the drummer of the forest, the dark-eyed junco is the snowflake, small, delicate, and a sure sign that winter has arrived. In fact, a lot of people call it the snowbird. Picture it, slate gray body, white belly, little pink beak. When juncos hop around on snowy ground, they look like tiny flying Oreo cookies sprinkled across the yard. And the best part? They're everywhere in winter, flitting under feeders, scratching at the snow for seeds, and flashing those white outer tail feathers like little signals as they dart away. But here's the twist. Juncos aren't just one look. Depending on where you live, they come in different color forms. Some are more brown, some more black, some even have rust-colored backs. It's like nature created a bird, then released multiple editions: Junco Classic, Junco Rusty, and Junco Deluxe. They're also ground feeders. While other birds fight for space at feeders, juncos happily clean up the seeds that fall to the ground. Efficient, polite, and kind of underrated. Fun fact, these little birds migrate south for the winter, sometimes only a few hundred miles, sometimes over 1,000. So if you see them in your backyard, chances are they've traveled from Canada or the northern forests to spend the season with you. Your yard is basically their vacation home. And even though they look dainty, juncos are tough. They survive blizzards, freezing nights, and still show up every morning with cheerful little chip calls, as if winter isn't even a big deal. Culturally, they're loved as the harbingers of winter. For many people across the US and Canada, the first junco sighting means it's time to grab your coat and shovel. So here's my question for you. Do you welcome winter when the juncos arrive, or do you wish they'd take the snow back north with them? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know. And now get ready for a bird with just as much charm, but a little more style, because the next one sports a tiny crest on its head, a curious personality, and a voice that sounds like it's asking questions. If the dark-eyed junco is winter's snowflake, the tufted titmouse is the curious little neighbor who just can't stop asking questions. Seriously, its song actually sounds like Peter, 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 like it's trying to get your attention. This small gray bird with big black eyes and a jaunty crest perched on its head is common in eastern North America. But common doesn't mean boring. Titmice are bold, playful, and way smarter than they look. Here's the hook. While most backyard birds are shy, titmice will swoop right in to grab sunflower seeds, sometimes even snatching one and darting away before you blink. They've been known to pluck hair from live animals, even people, to line their nests. Imagine sitting on a bench and a tiny bird tugs at your hair like it's shopping for insulation. They're also caching experts, storing seeds in little hiding spots around their territory. And yep, They remember where they put them even months later. Tiny brains, big memory. Fun fact, tufted titmice often hang out with chickadees, nuthatches, and woodpeckers in winter mixed flocks. Think of it as the bird version of a neighborhood watch, safer together, and everyone brings their own skills. Now here's a twist. Despite their boldness at feeders, titmice are cautious when it comes to choosing mates. Males sing over 35 different variations of their call to impress females. That's not just music, it's a playlist. And their family life? Adorable. Sometimes young titmice from the previous year stick around to help raise their younger siblings. Built-in babysitters, no questions asked. So here's my question for you. If you were a titmouse, would you use your smarts to gather food or to prank people by stealing their hair? Tell me in the comments, I've got to know. And next we turn up the volume, because the next bird is small but mighty. Its voice fills the forest with music that's way louder than you'd ever expect. If the tufted titmouse was the curious neighbor, the Carolina wren is the tiny bird with the biggest voice on the block. Seriously, this little ball of feathers can belt out a song so loud you'd think it swallowed a microphone. At just 5 or 6 inches long, Carolina wrens are cinnamon brown with a bold white eyebrow stripe that makes them look permanently surprised. But don't let the size fool you. When a male sings his classic tea kettle, tea kettle, tea kettle call, the whole forest hears it. It's like the Pavarotti of the backyard. Here's the twist. Unlike many birds, Carolina wrens sing year-round. Even in the middle of winter, when everything else is quiet, they're out there shouting cheerful tunes. It's like they refuse to let the cold kill their vibe. And talk about energy. These wrens are constantly on the move, bouncing through bushes, climbing along logs, and investigating every nook like little feathered detectives. They'll nest just about anywhere, hanging baskets, old boots, even mailboxes. If there's a cavity to stuff grass in, a Carolina wren will call it home. Fun fact, once a pair bonds, they're together for life. And they don't just duet in spirit, sometimes they actually sing together, with the female adding softer notes while the male belts out the lead. Backyard love songs, Carolina style. But here's another twist. Despite their bold songs, they're surprisingly shy around humans. You'll hear them long before you see them, and spotting one darting through the undergrowth feels like catching a glimpse of a backyard ninja. So here's my question for you. Would you rather be small with a giant voice like the Carolina wren, or big and silent like the mourning dove? Let me know in the comments. I'm curious which way you'd go. And next we shift from sweet duets to full-on drama, because the next bird doesn't just sing, it shouts from the marshes, flashing fiery red and black like it's leading a protest rally. If the Carolina wren was the opera singer, the red-winged blackbird is the protest leader with a megaphone. Perched on a cattail in a marsh, flashing its scarlet and gold shoulder patches, this bird doesn't just sing, it declares war on anything that gets too close. Picture it, sleek black body, glossy in the sunlight, and then, bam, a sudden flash of red and yellow on the wings when it calls. That color isn't just for show, it's a warning. The message? This is my territory. Back off. Here's the twist. Male red-winged blackbirds don't settle for one mate. They're polygynous, often defending a territory where several females nest. One male may have 5 or more mates at once. Talk about busy bird parenting. And while the males strut and sing, the females look completely different, streaky brown and much better camouflaged. They blend perfectly into the reeds, keeping the nest safe, while the flashy males make all the noise. Fun fact, these birds are fearless. They'll dive bomb crows, hawks, even humans if you get too close to their nests. Ask any farmer or hiker who's wandered into a marsh during breeding season, you don't forget that experience. Their call is distinctive too, a harsh, buzzy conkla-ree that echoes across wetlands every spring. To some ears it's music, to others it's chaos, but either way it's unforgettable. And here's something fascinating. Red-winged blackbirds migrate in massive flocks, sometimes numbering in the millions. Imagine a black cloud of wings moving across the sky, flashing red like sparks in the sun. Nature's fireworks show. So here's my question for you. Would you rather be the flashy defender who fights everyone off, or the stealthy female, blending in and running the show behind the scenes? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to see your take. And coming up next, we trade the marshlands for the ponds and lakes. Because the next bird is so familiar, so widespread, that it might just be the first duck you ever learned to name. All right, time for a bird so familiar that even kids with plastic bath toys know its name, the mallard duck. But don't be fooled by how ordinary it seems. The mallard is actually one of the most important and sometimes strangest birds in North America. First, the look. The male mallard, or drake, is a walking piece of art. Glossy green head, bright yellow bill, white neck ring, chestnut chest, and shimmering blue wing patch. It's like Mother Nature decided to show off. Meanwhile, the females are camouflaged in speckled brown, blending into wetlands like stealth professionals. Here's the twist. Mallards are the ancestors of almost every domestic duck on the planet. Yep, whether it's a farmyard duck or your backyard pond pet, chances are it came from a wild mallard. Talk about being the bird world's ultimate influencer. And let's talk personality. Mallards are social, adaptable, and not picky about where they live. City parks, farm ponds, wilderness lakes, you name it, they're there. They've even been spotted nesting on rooftops in busy downtown areas. Duck urban explorers. Fun fact, mallards are strong flyers, clocking speeds of up to 55 miles per hour. That's faster than many cars on the highway. And during migration, they can travel hundreds of miles in a single night. But here's the messy side. Mallards are notoriously loud. The females give the classic quack, quack everyone knows, while the males are quieter, making softer whistles. If you've ever tried feeding ducks at a pond, you know the chaos they can cause. It's like a feathered food riot. And ecologically, they're critical. By grazing and dabbling, mallards help keep wetlands healthy, spreading seeds and stirring nutrients. They're not just pretty, they're ecosystem engineers. So here's my question for you. When you see mallards at your local pond, do you toss them bread, not healthy by the way? Or just watch them waddle and fight over snacks? Tell me in the comments, I want to know. And now from one of the most ordinary ducks, we move to a bird that isn't native at all, yet has taken over backyards and city skies like it owns the place. If the mallard is the classic hometown duck, the European starling is the loud, flashy newcomer that moved in and then refused to leave. And here's the kicker. This bird isn't even supposed to be here. Back in the 1890s, a group in New York decided it would be cute to release every bird mentioned in Shakespeare's plays into Central Park. Guess what was on the list? The starling. Fast forward a century, and now there are over 200 million starlings across North America. Thanks, Shakespeare. So what makes them so successful? First, the look. Glossy black feathers that shimmer with purple, green, and blue in the sunlight, speckled with white spots like stars. In the right light, they're stunning. Nature's sequin jackets. Then the voice. Starlings don't just sing, they mimic. Car alarms, dogs, other birds, you name it, they can copy it. Some even learn human whistles. It's like having a feathered stand-up comedian in the neighborhood. But here's the twist. While they look and sound cool, starlings are kind of jerks. They take over nesting holes from native birds like bluebirds and woodpeckers, often bullying them out. They show up in giant flocks called murmurations, tens of thousands swirling in mesmerizing shapes across the sky. Beautiful? Absolutely. But for farmers, those same flocks can wipe out crops in minutes. Fun fact, murmuration flocks move with such precision that scientists still study how each bird reacts instantly to its neighbors, creating a living, breathing cloud. It's like nature's best dance team performed without a choreographer. So here's my question for you. When you see a starling murmuration, do you think, wow, amazing? Or, oh no, not these guys again? Tell me in the comments. I bet opinions will be split. And speaking of true North American natives, our next bird is the starling's complete opposite, a gentle blue beauty that feels like pure hope every time it shows up at your feeder. After the noisy, chaotic starlings, let's breathe a little, because this next bird is pure calm and charm. Meet the eastern bluebird, often called the bird of happiness. And honestly, it lives up to the name. Picture it, a male perched on a fence post, feathers glowing sky blue, chestnut orange breast, and a snowy white belly. When sunlight hits just right, it looks like a little piece of sky broke free and decided to sing. The females are softer in color, more grayish blue with gentle orange wash, but no less beautiful. Here's the hook. Bluebirds are symbols of joy across cultures. Native American traditions saw them as harbingers of spring. Folklore in Europe tied them to hope and renewal. Even today, seeing one often feels like good luck. But it wasn't always easy for them. By the mid-1900s, eastern bluebird populations crashed, thanks to habitat loss and invasive starlings and house sparrows stealing their nesting cavities. Here's the twist. Bird lovers fought back by creating bluebird trail projects, thousands of nest boxes across North America. And it worked. Populations rebounded, making this a rare conservation success story. Behavior-wise, bluebirds are insect hunters. They perch patiently, then swoop down to snatch crickets, beetles, or grasshoppers right off the ground. But they're also fruit lovers, so if you've got berry bushes in your yard, you might just get lucky. Fun fact? Bluebirds are surprisingly fierce for such gentle-looking birds. Males will fight off rivals with mid-air battles, wings flapping, claws out. Happiness, sure, but don't mess with their territory. And one of the most magical sights in spring is a flock of bluebirds feeding together in an open field, their feathers shimmering like tiny sky lanterns. So here's my question for you. If you could choose a symbol bird for happiness in your life, would it be the bluebird or something else? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear your pick. And now we close this journey with a bird that defines the continent's wild migrations. A bird you've seen in V formations overhead, honking loudly like a feathered orchestra in the sky. All right, time to wrap things up with a bird so iconic you've probably heard it before you've even seen it. That deep honk, honk, honk echoing across the sky? Yep, that's the Canada goose, North America's feathered long-distance traveler. These geese are big, up to 14 pounds with long black necks, white chin straps, and brown bodies. They're elegant in flight, but let's be honest. On the ground, they waddle like grumpy security guards patrolling the park. Here's the hook. Canada geese are masters of teamwork. When they migrate, they fly in that famous V formation. Each bird reduces wind resistance for the one behind it, and they rotate leadership when the front goose gets tired. It's basically the ultimate relay team. This formation can boost their range by up to 70%. That's not just smart, it's genius. But here's the twist. While many migrate thousands of miles, some Canada geese have ditched the travel life entirely. City parks, golf courses, even suburban lawns. They've adapted so well that in many places, they're year-round residents. And yeah, sometimes they're not exactly welcome. Ask anyone who's tried walking across a goose-covered field. Landmines everywhere. Despite the mess, they're fascinating parents. Pairs mate for life, fiercely protect their goslings, and will hiss, chase, even attack humans who get too close. One goose versus a jogger? Don't bet on the jogger. Fun fact, goslings can swim just 24 hours after hatching. Imagine a little puffball already paddling around like it owns the pond. Love them or hate them, Canada geese are unforgettable. They're survivors, opportunists, and living proof that wildness doesn't stop at the city limits. So here's my question for you. When you see a flock of geese overhead, do you feel inspired or just brace yourself for what they left on the sidewalk? Tell me in the comments. I bet this one splits opinions, and that's our final bird. But don't go anywhere, because we've got one last flight together. A look back at the wild, weird, and wonderful skies of North America. Hey, before you fly off, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Which North American bird from today's countdown surprised you the most? I'm curious to hear your pick, because after robins pulling worms, cardinals singing duets, bald eagles stealing fish, and geese honking across the skies, one thing is crystal clear. North America isn't just about forests and mountains. It's a continent where every backyard, every marsh, and every snowy field has a story told in feathers. Some birds dazzled us with color, like the bluebird glowing sky bright. Some cracked us up with tricks, like the jay screaming at everything or the drongo's mimicry. Others showed us raw survival, from chickadees braving blizzards to eagles soaring as comeback champions. Together, they proved something powerful. You don't have to travel to the ends of the earth to find the strange and the spectacular. Sometimes it's perched on your fence post, hiding in your bushes, or flying right over your head. But here's the truth. These birds still need us. Healthy yards, clean water, safe forests, it all matters. Because when we protect them, we protect the stories they carry. So keep looking up. The skies of North America are alive, loud, and unforgettable. And next time, we're crossing oceans again to discover birds that look like myths come to life in places where legend and feathers still meet. Trust me, you don't want to miss it.